Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Mary King, and I am helping host today as Elaine and Ming, Uncle Ming. They are traveling, and I believe perhaps Reverend Lee has another commitment too. So I'm so grateful for the chance to introduce to you our speaker today. His name is John Cheung. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, but anyway, he has a lot of wisdom and experiences to share from his background, his career background, and also just his overall professional and personal faith journey too. So we're so excited to hear from him. So students here, feel free to use the chat box. You can tell us where you're from, what grade you're in, if you have any specific questions that you'd like him to answer. His career area is software test engineering and networking. So I'm sure we'll learn a lot from him. So we'll hand it over to John. Go ahead, John. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mary. Good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is John. Yeah, it's really great to be sharing here today. Actually, I want to applaud to each one of you guys because usually Saturday morning is a little bit harder to attend. But for those of you attending live, that's really encouraged me because you have the motivation to learn and to invest time into career exploration. So today I'm going to talk about my career journey in software test engineering. So let me just introduce my family real quick. We are a family of 6. I have 4 boys. The oldest one is going to 10th grade right now, and the youngest one is in the 2nd grade right now. And yeah, if you look at my family picture, actually it's taken in Hawaii. That's one of the favorite vacation spot for our family because it's warm. We like warm weather. And then we also have a cat. Her name is Mochi. And she was a stray cat, but now she has been in our family for 3 to 4 years already. It's really cute. And a little bit introduction about myself. Like this introduction said, I have been in the software test engineer career for actually almost 20 years. I graduated from UCLA with a computer science engineering background. And also I have a certification in the Cisco routing and switching, which I'm gonna talk about it a little bit later in the slides. I was born in Hong Kong. You can probably tell from my last name, it's a Cantonese last name, but I do speak fluent Mandarin as well as Taiwanese. I moved to the US at 14 of age, 8th grade, like some of you here. I grew up in the Bay Area. So I attended high school in the Bay Area, actually. I was led to God in high school. I went to attended a youth fellowship invited by my classmate. And then gradually I strengthened my faith through different services and also throughout my life. There are different callings from God, and I try to obey and respond. And then that's how I expand my faith. So I'm currently attending the Forerunner Christian Church with my family. And so far I've had 2 to 3 jobs in my career. So I've been working in Cisco systems as a technical lead, and then a startup company called Barefoot Networks. And then it was acquired by Intel. That's where I work right now. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with Intel because they produce the CPU used in the laptop. But I work in a different group with the networking department. And something about my passion, of course, put God first, but also I have a lot of passion about my family. I love mentoring younger generation, and that's why I accepted the invitation to talk about my career here. And also, I love learning new skills and technology, especially from YouTube. I don't know how many of you love to watch YouTube. If you do, you can raise your hand or type in the chat box. But I've learned a lot from YouTube, from fixing cars or from how to resolve computer problems. And I love problem solving. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna also talk about myself with the 5P model and the SWOT analysis, which I'm also learning from you, but hopefully that would also give you an idea of who I am. Regarding the performance, I really focus on the family and church and my career. I would love to guide my sons with godly principles and characters, and also being a loving and caring husband. I think that's very important. From church-wise, right now, I've been a Sunday school teacher for like a long time, like 10 plus years. And recently, me and my wife has accepted to be the Sunday school principal because we both love working with kids or the children's. And yeah, career is to work as a software test engineering team lead. And from the people relationship, I think I'm caring, I'm kind, I'm patient, I'm supportive, and I love to bring joy to other people. So when I was preparing this presentation, I was trying to make it a little bit more fun because I know talking about the technical topics could sometimes be hard to concentrate. So hopefully you'll get some of my code jokes later on. Okay, I'm also really enjoy giving whatever that I have, whether it's my talents, my time. I would love to give it to people in need, as well as where God leads me in calling to. Passion, like I talk about, that's a family and younger generation, but I'm also really love to be handy. I like to fix things that are broken at home. And enjoy learning new technology, and especially I really enjoying listening and learning more about music, audios, and media like video editing. So my principle is like familiar with, similar to a lot of you. I really want to put my principle in the God's word, and I would really like to be family oriented, and also I love to bring positive influence to everyone that I meet. My purpose would be to build intimate relationship with Christ, because I think that's really important. That's where our life is rooted from, and then that's how we can bring positive influence into our workplace, into our school, into church, or even in the family. And I would love to be the ambassador of God's kingdom in different areas of my life, including family, workplace, and in services. Okay. Just a last slide about myself, I promise. Okay. So my strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. I think I'm really adaptive, resilient. I'm really creative. I mean, I just want to share about this to see if you're similar or there are some differences, and see if this will work out with the career that I'm going to discuss a little bit later. So I enjoyed problem solving. I'm really good at problem solving, and I love learning. I'm supportive and dependable. And I love simplicity. I don't like to take things too complex. If I could solve things in one step, I would not take 10 steps. And my weaknesses, I mean, I probably share with some of you also, because time management has been hard for me because I have lots of things to juggle with in life. Also, I find myself to be hard to have a self-discipline. I really need like a group setting to help going with my practices, or even how to spend my time. It really helps me when a team or a group help and encourage me. And I feel sometimes I'm not proactive enough, which I'm learning to be more proactive. That's an enlightenment from God. That's something that I need to work on. And the threats could be that there are too many things, so I may spread too thin, whether at work, or at the home or at church because I'm a pretty capable person. I can solve a lot of problems, but sometimes I may put in my time into too many different things. I'm interrupt driven. I put the quote firefighting mode. So basically, because of the time management planning, sometimes I don't plan enough, and I would be interrupt driven quite a bit of times. So that may distract me from doing regular things to be having a good discipline. And I tend to work by myself instead of delegating the task or invest time in team building. I think that's something that I continually need to improve on because recently I was enlightened by God. Like if I can do 100 things really well, why don't I train a team of 100 people that can do 2 things really well? Then I could have already done double of the things that I could do by myself. Especially, I'm pretty sure everyone can at least learn 5 things. So that's 5 times of what I can capable of. So some opportunities I feel that I could work on is I can be a good role model, and a leader as a father and a husband. And I can be a good supporter and a leader at church. And I'll be a blessing and the best helper to my manager in the workplace. Okay, so let's get into my career. How I pick my college major and career, okay? So I have a lot of interests and have a lot of passions. I don't know what's your favorite subject in high school or at school. Feel free to type in the chat box. But for me, when I was in the high school, I really love chemistry because it's something that I'm really good at. I like music because that's something that I enjoyed. I've taken music theory class and I love putting things together, like composing and enjoying the end product of the project. And I have also considered business as my major, college major, because that's what my parents do. And I've seen them doing business since I was growing up at a young age. But ultimately, I chose computer science because it what fascinates me. And yeah, believe it or not, I put the movie. I don't know if anyone you have watched the movie Matrix, but that's something that one of my favorite movie because it's talk about computer and then also some virtual environment. And that actually, at a young age, when I was watching the movie, that gave me the inspiration to be learning more in computer science and also to invest my time as a career because I really want to learn more about how computer works and how I enjoy looking at the things connect to each other and people connecting each other as well as computer connects and talks to each other. So I picked computer science as my college major and as well as my career path. So I would like to spend a couple of slides on basic introduction on what is computer networking. Basically, it's I really like to make an analogy. Computer networking is like freeways or roads or traffic. So if you look at well, Thanksgiving is coming up, so I'm not sure if anyone has a travel plans or for Christmas. But basically, if you want to travel from one place to the other, you have to either drive on a freeway or fly from, with airplanes. So when you go from one place to the other, the roads, the freeway that you travel on, basically connects you from one place to the other. So computer networking is similar to this because when you're connecting from your home computer, going onto the internet, that's from one place going to the other places. But in the middle, basically, it's trying to go through a whole bunch of networking devices, wires, just like when you go from like your home driving on the local roads and go on the freeway and then from the freeway to get off the freeway and then go back to the local roads and reach your destination. So I just sharing a brief diagram of the home network. I'm pretty sure during the pandemic, every one of you have learned so much about your home network since we're all joining from Zoom, even now. But at a home network, it's basically how all the devices at home connects to each other, and then autonomously going out to the internet. For things like computer that we are on right now, laptops, your mobile devices, iPad, iPhone, cellular phones, printers, right? Right now at home, mostly would be connected by wireless. So basically, instead of going through the wire, we are going through radio waves to connect to the internet. And then we may have some security devices like home cameras. We may have smart home appliances, refrigerators, TVs, smart lights, right? So all of these basically need to connect to something in order to go out to the internet so that it could reach to the services or the destination that you want to go to. So if you look at the middle diagram, there is like a switch with like 10 ports. So that's usually at home, there'll be from the internet provider, they will give you a modem or a router or a switch. So for me, I have Comcast. They have given me a Comcast modem that is, it goes to the internet through the cables that's connected. But in order for my home devices to connect to the internet, I'll have to connect to this networking device, either through wireless or connecting it directly to the router with cable connection. So I try to use this slide to basically helps you relate to something that you're already familiar with at home. So you may have some of these devices or all of these devices. Okay, so can I get a raise of hand? How many of you know what is internet address or IP address? Or you can type in a chat box with one. Okay. Okay, got some. Okay, nice, Matthew. All right, so let's also talk about internet address real quick. It's a really foundational because in order for, from a home computer, let's say if I want to log into Zoom or log into some website or log onto YouTube or Facebook, you have to know what's the address. Like if we want to travel from one place to the other, when you type in the GPS, you have to type in the address before you know how to get there. So internet address is basically 4 digits of numbers to label where the device is. Okay, so I've put some bullet points here. Basically, the networking devices, they use IP address to route and forward traffic to the correct destinations. So there's an analogy, like it's like a house street number, right? So if you have a house street number, let's say I live on 20 in this diagram of the yellow house, then my network address will be 192.168.1.20. And if you look at the combinations, basically each numbers can go up to from 0 to 255. So it's a 2 to the 32 power, and which is around 4.3 billions. That's a lot of number to memorize, a lot of addresses. And I don't think anyone could memorize all the numbers. Let's say I want to go to Google to search something, then I have to memorize the number of what's the web address of the Google, right? So in the internet protocol, there's also a thing called DNS. It's a domain name system. It's used like as a directory service. So we can find, let's say if I live in a yellow house, my house, John's house, I can say, I want to go to John's house instead of memorizing the number. So when I type in John's house, it will automatically look up the correct addressing and translate it to 192.168.1.20. And then you can go to the destination by looking up that address. And then here's another analogy. So how many of you think that your home connection is too slow? Sometimes I do feel that way. Oh, Matthew, looks like you're really familiar with computer networking. Bandwidth, it's like a highway. So let's say if you're driving from one city to the other, do you think you'll hit traffic likely on 1 lane, 2 lane, or 6 lane traffics? So bandwidth is basically the capacity of how fast the speed can go or how many cars you can hold at the same time at any given amount of time. The wider the highway or the wider the bandwidth, the higher the bandwidth, that means you can go, you can have more cars or more information that can go through the wire at the same time. That means that if you have, I have Comcast internet, earlier I had maybe 20 megabits service. That means I could only send 20 megabits per second. Maybe it's on the left-hand side as 1 lane. But recently they upgraded me to 100 megabits per second. So maybe they upgraded me to a 2 lane. So I can download or upload a lot more information at that given amount of seconds. So that means if for the same file size or for the same video I'm downloading, that would take a lot faster. It's a double the time or 6 times the speed, depending on how wide the highway is or how big the bandwidth is. And then we can also compare the networking devices like switch and routers to different traffic signs, like a stoplights or a stop sign. That means that some traffic will be blocked. You cannot go from this place to the other place. You have to go to the other place. And then some traffic signs like a right turn sign, left turn sign, that could mean that in order for me to go from my home computer to Google, I have to, the traffic or the packets need to go to the right to this next hop of device instead of going to the left hop on the left side, right? And then there could be some speed signs, right? Speed limiting. Let's say on the freeway, we can drive 65 miles per hour, but in the local, we could only drive 30 miles per hour. So there could be some speed limiting in the computer network so that the freeway would not be as congested. And the packets are like the cars, like I mentioned before. So that's some I guess, background information on computer networking. Of course, it's a lot more topics that we can talk about, but then this is some brief introduction to get you inspired. If you love looking at maps and how to resolve problems for traffic, reduce traffic, I think that computer networking would be really great for you. So I would like to share 2 verses that's in my work faith that has really helped me. So first one is from Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. And whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. And the second verse is Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So I don't know about you guys who are in school. I'm sure you have your favorite subject as well as your least favorite subjects. I think it's a lot similar at work. Sometimes there are some projects or tasks that I enjoy to do a lot. There's some tasks that could be a little bit boring, or I feel that why does my boss or my manager assign me this particular task, even though it's not my assignment, right? But these 2 verses basically talk about whatever that we do at school or at work. Basically, it's as long as it's not going against the Bible principle, It's God is helping us to practice our obedience as well as how to follow directions. And I feel that in my work experience, a lot of times, something that I felt that maybe I should not spend my time doing on it, or felt really bored by doing it. But at the later point in time in my career, when I look back, those projects or those tasks, I think it had benefited me as a learning experience. And that's why I felt that I'm just throwing out these two verses for you to remember, whether at school or at your future workplace. It's important to know that whatever we do at the current place that God has placed us in, it's not just for learning for our parents or our teachers. It's not just for working for our boss, but anything that we accomplish, that's something that we can give glory to God to. And that's something that we can, God is helping us to shape our characters. Okay, so let's talk about my career. I've worked at Cisco and Intel. Cisco is basically my first corporate job out of college after I got a Cisco certification. And it helped me to learn how to test large networking devices, which I'm going to show in the next slide. And I've learned some networking knowledge, like I showed you in the previous slides on the basic ones, as well as more different protocols. I've learned a lot of different traffic sign, how different traffic signs works. But it's not until that I joined Cisco that I have seen how it's getting used, not just at home, but in companies, different companies at a campus network, like in the office environment, or even at, let's say, at the Google, Facebook offices. And then it also helps me to learn how to interact with different teams. And because we need to understand from different aspects of the team to better test the product, whether from marketing team, from hardware designers, software developers, or customer supports. It takes a lot of people to efforts to basically come up with a networking device that's functional and according to spec. So here is one device that I work with. It's not, I mean, I just got it from the internet, but if you look on the right-hand side, it's a Cisco device that has a lot of connection, a lot of cables that you can plug into. And it's a very popular device used in the different companies because of this capability and capacity. But at our work, sometimes we may not be able to connect the cables as neatly as the picture on the right. It may become the pictures on the left. It's a kind of messy because we have to make frequent changes in the connections. Cable management. That's actually something that I have learned in Cisco as well, because I've seen labs that are like the left-hand side that are really, really messy. And it actually, it's less efficient if you need to find out where cables are connected, and then you have to change the connection, right? So yeah, that's how to be organized is also very important in the workplace, like a networking test engineer. So one more thing that I've learned is creative testing. Let's say if you have so many ports in a networking device, I mean, at home, we maybe have 4 connections that are connected by wire, and then maybe have 50 devices connected with Wi-Fi. But let's say if I want to test a product that has hundreds of ports, and I want to make sure that all 100 of them can work. But because in order to buy 100 devices, the company will need to spend money on it. Now I only have 2 computers available to connect. How can I connect, test out all the ports in the device, right? So there was a actually, I'm just curious, like, how do you think I can approach this problem, right? So one thing I've learned is you can actually use a cable, connect it back to back, populate all the connection in the switch. And then when you send the traffic from one computer to the other, basically you configure the networking device to loop through from one port to the other. And we call that a SNCC connection. So you can send from one computer from the first port, and then the first port sending to the second port through an internal connection. And then second port to the third port will be from a wire connection, and so on and so forth. And that way, basically, we can test out all the ports with just 2 computers. All we need to invest is a lot more cables, but then those cables would be much cheaper than investing the actual computers or networking devices to test with. Okay. So from a day-to-day job perspective, because I don't know what's your expectation joining this topic discussion for my career. Maybe you're looking for more from a testing from software perspective. But actually from my day-to-day job, I have to not just learn the software codes, but actually the hardware or the networking device perspective. So there's a lot of reading involved. We have to basically read about product requirement documents. That's something that's given by the marketing team, what customer wants. In the analogy of the freeway and the traffic, basically, customer would define what type of traffic signs they want to use. Do they want to use a right turn sign, or if they want to use flashing red lights? And what does a flashing red light mean, right? Like, do you mean that the cars need to stop for 3 seconds before they can go, or they have to stop for 5 seconds before they can go? So all of those are documented in the product requirement documents. And then we have to also read through the hardware design spec, because once we get the customer requirements, we will have to design the hardware with all those ports, and then also a chip that's inside on how to switch or route the traffic. But it's a lot more complicated than just sending in and coming out, because internally on the hardware perspective, there are lots of transistors and chips involved and different pipes and processes. So the more that we understand how the hardware works, it helps a test engineer like me to test the product better and find out the issues early on. And on top of that, we of course have to read the software design specification to know how does the software on top of that works, right? So another comparison that we make to, like, on a computer, you would have to know the motherboard, the networking cards, the CPUs, how those connect to each other. That's pretty much like the hardware design spec. And then software design spec will be how to use the Windows or Linux. And then the application on top of it, like how to use Zoom, how to test out Zoom. Okay. And then another part of my job is to create test topologies in the lab. So different customers have different requirements, like how do they connect all the computers in their environment, or how do they connect all the servers in their environment. Of course, we cannot, in the test environment, we won't be able to invest so many devices to test like a real server. So sometimes the test topology would be a more condensed version. And also we have to come up with creative ideas, like I showed before earlier when I talk about how to test all the ports in the networking device. Sometimes we have to be creative and replicate the test scenarios for the customer. And then, of course, testing may not be smooth, because if you have written software code before, you'll know that it doesn't always work the first time. So it only be after testing that we find bugs or things to fix. So as part of a test engineer, we also have to file bug reports and describe what was the issue, how to hit the issue. And then we have to work with the software developers to fix the bug in the code. And then once the product is released, sometimes in the field, customer may see an issue that may not have been caught in our testing. So we also have to work with customer support team to recreate issues seen by customer. Okay, this one I'll skip for now due to time. And another thing I want to bring out is importance of scripting and automation in my job. Because if you look at testing, sometimes it's really repetitive and iterative. It's a lot of typing of the same names and IP address or numberings that are incremental. So if you just do it manually, typing on a keyboard, it may be okay for the first time because we can bring up a device and test out the traffic. It's like you can build traffic signs. You can build, you can drive a car through the highway. But in order to test out the different software codes or different features, we want to have automation and scripting to help so that we can invest our work time more efficiently. And also software development, code writing is an iterative process and often requires testing the same features repeatedly and to make sure that the new code does not break existing functionality. So let's say I want to add a new traffic sign into this device, but somehow it has a conflict with previous traffic signs. So should I go at 65 miles per hour or should I go at 30 miles per hour? Right? So that could be a bug that needs to be fixed. But we won't know until we keep on testing the same code with the same testing environment. And if we need to type it over and over and over again, it can get a little bit tedious and time consuming. And that's why we invest time to write code, test codes that basically with a click of a button or maybe one command that all the features can be tested automatically. And some tests actually require repetitive actions and to test the stress or timing condition. For example, if you want to know if your laptop can survive day-to-day reboots, right? How can you test it in a short amount of time? Let's say I want to target that the laptop can boot up at least once a day in a year, but I don't have a year to test it, right? So I have to automate some process to keep on rebooting the computer and then also check that the computer boots up correctly and then repeat the same thing again. And that's where automation and scripting could help. And some of the tools and programming languages that I use at work, Python, it's used mainly for scripting for my work. And then I felt that the C and C++ would be very important to learn because of the networking devices mostly are developed in these two languages. And then Jenkins is a tool that is sort of like an orchestrator for automated jobs to basically run the script and schedule the test runs. And then I also put a Linux and Docker because when I was in high school or at home computer, we mainly use either a Macintosh or a Windows operating system. But when I attended college, it was a big hit for me because it looks like a lot of software coding development you need to learn about Linux. So if you have interest or passion in computer networking or software development, I would highly recommend to learn Linux as soon as you can, because it will help you to understand how all the parts of computers and the processes work together. And it's also open source, so you can download it, install it on a computer. And the reason why I introduced Docker here, because many of us, maybe we only have one computer and we have to have Windows running or some operating system or Macintosh running. But let's say I want to learn about Linux, right? How can I don't want to put money investing on another computer. But Docker basically gives you a virtual environment that you can run different operating system on the same device or same computer. So we can simulate and test on different operating systems. Okay. So I also want to talk about how I landed in the second job in the Barefoot Networks and Intel. So this is the first time I work at a small startup company. Actually, it was kind of, I felt that it was kind of scary because uh, in a small startup company, everyone you meet, they will be really smart. And I felt that sometimes it's a little bit pressuring to know that your colleagues are all PhDs or professor in university. So it's actually a very humbling experience for me to join a startup company because oftentimes I'll reflect on myself like, am I capable of doing this job, or am I valued at this job? But like the two verses I shared with you earlier, I believe that God placed me there for its purpose. And I believe in this work, I've learned how to humble myself, and also how to value myself, how to see myself as from God's eye. Even though sometimes I may feel a little bit low self-esteem because I don't have maybe the same academia credential as other people, but I'm unique in a different way because I know how to test the code at the right. Okay. So in this job, I also learned to be adaptive, flexible, and get hands dirty researching and evaluating different open source tools and find the best one. Because in a small company or a startup company, most of the time the finance or the money spending is a constraint. So we may not be able to invest in very large tool sets or very expensive tools. So we revert to the open source tools to be a little bit more flexible. And sometimes the common tools or common tools may not have the functions that we develop. But open source community, we can freely modify the code to its purpose and to its usage. So also in Barefoot and Intel, I've been working in a small team, but I think it's a very good experience because I get to learn the inside out of the product, from the chip design all the way to the software application. That's something that I have not been able to do in Cisco. Cisco is a very large corporate company. But having an experience working in a startup company, I actually get to learn. I actually get to meet with hardware engineers, having a closer relationship with them, and learn the inside out. How do they design the hardware chip? How do they? What's the logic or reason behind it? And basically, that helps me to test the product a lot better. And something that I'm still learning on in my current job is to prioritize the test strategies because the test area is limited. And the chip that I'm working on is actually a programmable and a software-defined chip, meaning that the traffic sign is not installed by hands, but it can be installed by a piece of software or a piece of code. It can be automatically assigned and changed at any given amount of time. And I just wanted to show you where the product I'm working on could be deployed. If you look at the data centers, maybe for YouTube or Facebook or Google, in order to host that amount of traffic and services, they will have to have a lot of test racks and servers. And all of these servers need to be connected somehow. If you look at the cables, the yellow cables, it's all connected to the top where there's a switch device. And so that all the servers within the rack can talk to each other. And then from the top of the switch rack would connect to another bigger aggregated switch. So that is where the product I'm testing on is being deployed. And data centers could be used of lots of different ways, like the web service provider, application engines, and then it's a compute resource. Like if you need to compute something that requires a lot of computer power, you probably would need to rent some servers or computing time in the data center. And then another thing is for the hot topic recently is the AI, artificial intelligence, and the machine learning clusters, because it requires a lot of computing resources. And with all these servers or the application written, they will need a way to interconnect and communicate each other to combine all the computing power together. And that's how the job I'm working at contribute to these areas. And this is one of the switch that I've worked on. I just want to give you a picture. I don't know, I don't think this is commonly seen at home, but this networking device is capable of 12.8 terabits per second. So for a quick note, bits and bytes, basically it's units being measured of bits is basically electronical signals of zeros and ones. That's how data is presented on the wire. The faster you can go sending these bits and bytes, the more information that you send at the same time. So for this switch, it's capable of 12.8 terabyte bits per second. That's typical fastest home internet speed is about maybe 1 gigabit per second. That's really fast already. But that means that for this switch or networking device, it's capable of handling traffic of 12,800 homes with the fastest internet speed with just one switch. So this is like a highway, super highway for the traffic. And then another interesting project that I have worked on, if you look at the data centers, there are so many servers and networking devices. Power will be a very big concern because the more devices you add, even just 1 watt of power would be additional because you have thousands and millions of devices, right? So reducing power is important for the data center, both from the electricity point of view as well as heat perspective, because the more power that you consume or you use, the more heat you're gonna generate. And if you have a computer at home, I'm sure you know that heat and electronic device doesn't work very well together. So companies will need to invest air conditioning or cooling devices to help the devices running, and that's additional cost. So one creative solution that in this product is because some of these connectors are laser driven. So in order for to power up the laser from the chip in the middle of the switch, that's the networking chip that we have developed. So if you look at the middle ports, there's a silver transceiver that's optical connection. In order to drive the laser from that port and then send the packet into the middle of the chip or the box, it takes some power. But that power sometimes is still too high in data center standard. So what we have done is basically co-package optics into the chip. What that means is instead of having the laser transceiver at the utmost of the device, we're bringing in closer to the processing unit, like a CPU or the network chip inside. So you see this on the left-hand side and right-hand side, there are yellow cables outside as well as inside the box. And those yellow cables connects to a laser chip inside the box. So the laser doesn't need to have a higher, as high of a power to drive the packets through. And this way, basically, it helps to reduce the power and reduce the cost of the data center operation. Okay, and some skills and training that I feel is important. Of course, computer programming for Python and C. I think you need to be logical and organized. And then it'll be good if you have a computer science and math major because it helps you to train into this logical and organized fashion. Communication skill is also important, even though most of the time we sit in front of a computer and write test plan or write code to tests, but we need to communicate with other teams in order to understand the objectives and what to test with. I think it's really important to be open to new technologies, whether it's the tools, protocols, or programming languages, because technology change really fast. So you need to be open to learn new things. And then also foundation knowledge on the test area and certification may help. Like I have went through Cisco and Juniper certifications for networking. But if you're interested, let's say for cloud infrastructure or other test areas, maybe Amazon Web Service or Azure from Microsoft certification would help to get you some foundation knowledge on the test area. So some potential pathway could be a software test engineer in other domains. You could be an automation regression test engineer. You could be a DevOps. That's where you help to build the code and do the software release. Basically, let's say if you have on the iPhone, you have macOS 11.0, 12.0. So basically, each version of the software, you need to have a team or engineer to help package them together and release to the customer. You could be a cloud solution architect, or you could be supporting the customer, or you could be doing on the business side to do technical marketing or pre and post sales to help customer design their network. Or you could be a people manager to manage other test engineers to work on a big project. So this is the last two slides I'm gonna go. Things that I wish I have learned 20 years ago when I first started my job. I hope if you are falling asleep, please keep attention. I think it's really important. I think it's okay to make mistakes because learning from mistake, you will always remember and you know what happened and you will not make the same mistake again. I wish I have known that I want to be more vocal. There's no stupid question and there's no stupid answer. That's why we encourage typing your questions and in the chat, because by asking questions or by answering the questions, you get to learn the subject a lot better, and you help to remember and understand much better. And I wish I'd known that working in a team rather than working alone is better, and then that help is always available. I don't have to work on the things by myself. I also wish I have known that the projects could get canceled. Sometimes I get really discouraged because I've invested so much time on a project, but then it doesn't come to customers' hands. It seems like the time is wasted, but actually the experience is not wasted. Whatever you learn on the project, it can be applied for the future projects or ideas. And I've also wish I've known much better is God's salvation is in all aspects in life, because I used to think that, okay, I just go to church and apply and learn more about God and worship God. But at work, I just need to finish the works that I'm assigned to, or at school, I just need to finish my classes. But that is really not true, because God wants to be involved in all the aspects in our life, whether in family, church, work, and relationships. And he can help us to build godly characters in all those aspects of life. And lastly, I wish I've known that I can find a mentor and also find a mentee and stay in the platform for growth. So actually, I'm involved in a platform called Communication and Career Exploration, as well as I've joined a conference called Level Up in 2020. It's similar to the Zoom call that we have. I think this is a youth camp on Zoom. So it's really important to stay in the platform for growth, because if you're going by yourself, sometimes you get discouraged, or when you're down, you feel that you slow down, or even you don't want to walk anymore. But if you're going in a platform or a team, supporting team, actually often you get encouraged and you get to learn from each other, and you'll grow much faster and much better that way. So yeah. And lastly, I just want to leave a verse with you guys. It's from Psalm, chapter 139, verse 14. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. So whether or not after today's presentation, you decide to go into software engineering field or software testing field, or maybe some other fields, just understand that each one of us have a different SWOT analysis. Each one of us has a different gift that God has made us or given us. But each one of us is fearfully and wonderfully made. We can always be growing. So if we are willing to follow God's leadership, and I'm sure that He'll guide us through different adventures, and we'll get to know His characters and also grow His characters in our life. Okay, so that's actually all from my presentation. Sorry for going a little bit over time, but I see some question on chat from Matthew. So what do I mean from platform of growth? So basically, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a self-learner. I like to solve things on my own. That's why I think that this generation is very blessed because you guys have the internet with a wealth of information. You can always look up things on Google. You can search example videos on YouTube. But I feel that that's not enough because we can only go so far by learning by ourselves. So it's very important to join either a fellowship or for high school students or even career professionals to have a group of people that have a similar vision and a similar growth mindset to learn from each other. It's not just to have experience learning, but it's also the spiritual and mental supports, because we are not always being smooth in our career life, or we are not always smooth in our academic life. But if you have a group of people or a platform that can support you, I felt that it's really helpful, including joining this youth camp on Zoom or some other platform that I've seen, or even just to attend a fellowship to share about your school experience or work experience so that we can help out and pray for each other. Okay, any other questions, either live or on chat? I hope I did not bore you with too much technical information, but I felt the burden to share my what I'm working on to hopefully spark you the interest in this career. Like I've fascinated with movies, and also sometimes I talk with people who are in different careers. By learning more from how they do their work and what product they're working on and how they contribute to the society, it actually helps to inspire and spark my interest and passion in the career of the network testing engineer.
That was so amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that, John. I hope you all found that helpful. I was inspired by the fact that he told his story and that through all this you raised 4 sons. That's pretty incredible. But you kept God at the center, and thank you for the creative and unique visuals. I thought that was really helpful, and the examples that you shared about like the house address. I learned a lot about this area, even though my background is completely different. It's in business and accounting and higher education, but I thought this was extremely useful. And, I think to everybody here, despite your career goals in the future, I think a lot of what the takeaways that John shared in the end, I think they're applicable to everybody. You could see somebody that's so busy like John and accomplished, and the same thing with all of the hosts here, Elaine, Uncle Ming and Pastor Lee, they've inspired so many generations, and they're all very accomplished, and I really believe it's their passion to use their experiences to help others, ultimately for God's glory. So thank you so much for sharing that journey. Okay, there's another question here. For the teamwork, how did you encourage yourself if you encountered some selfish or aggressive team members or the team members that you don't like? Okay, very applicable question. Y'all might be in group projects or future teams, so that's a great question for John.
Yeah, I think for me, like the first two verses I shared, I believe God did not place those very selfish or aggressive team members by mistake. So it's something that we have to learn and work with different personalities and different work habits. First of all, I will basically try to understand where they're coming from, why they is, because when I look at it, it may be aggressive or maybe selfish. But from the other perspective, it may be that they have a different personality, or they have different, maybe they want the project to be more successful, but they portray it to be more aggressive. So first of all, I want to understand where they're coming from, have an open communication and discussion. That's something that I wish I have known since I was in high school and earlier in my career journey, because sometimes I may assume people think that way, but actually they don't really meant that way. So I think it's really important to open up the communication channel. And then second of all, I think even if their character or like not all the people at school or workplace are nice people, there could be some bad people also. But I think God also is responsible for our life, and he's responsible for all the aspects of our life. If he allows this situation happens, there's something that we can learn from, and there's something that we can pray about. So do keep whatever that's bothering you on top of your mind in the prayer, or even share in the team, like the platform that I was talking about. So you can get the encouragement from other people to see, to keep you in the prayer support. Because sometimes we only have so much wisdom and so much knowledge on how to talk to people. But Holy Spirit and God would sometimes show us like what are the exact words that we need to say to that person and how to resolve the conflict. And that's something that we can learn from and blessed by God as a part of the adventure. Yeah.
That's a great question. And I think that's a lifelong lesson we'll continue to learn, but God will sanctify us through the process. And you never know, some of the most difficult people in your life, they may end up being people that God uses to encourage you, and likewise, and you may actually, that relationship may strengthen more than your other friendships. And that's happened in my case. And we can give the glory to God for changing our hearts to be able to love compassionately despite the differences. Okay, another question over here, a couple. What coding languages do you think are the most useful? He's currently learning Java. And then also, if I want to become a software engineer, what classes do I need to take in high school? Great practical questions.
Yeah, those are great questions. First of all, I think let me just answer to the classes first. I think in order to become a software engineer, you have to be trained with logical thinking. Some classes would help with of course, the higher level math, because sometimes when you write a piece of code, in order to make it efficient, you may need to think about the algorithms. And math classes actually helps you to break down the problems and how to calculate, how the code should be written. So math would be helpful. Also, science classes will generally be helpful also because when you do the lab experiments or testing, right? Basically, that helps you to train you how to design the experiment to basically to know that it is working. So that's basically steps of processes you have to break down and take to resolve a problem. So all of this is more like logical problem solving. So any of those classes would be a good foundation. But more practically for languages or from software engineering, I felt that C and C++ is a very good language to learn because it actually covers all aspects and all the uh, languages features in only on those two languages. You can learn everything. If I want to make an analogy to a musical instrument, C and C++ is basically like the piano of musical instruments. Basically, it can play different type of music. It can apply to any type of coding. It may not work best for everything, but it can be applied to anything. Java is also a good language, but to start with, because it's an object-oriented language, it will help you to understand the basic foundation of how to piece a code structure together. But it may have some other more advanced computer science topics like memory or pointers that may be missing from this language. But it's also, I think Java is a good language to start with also because it's popular among web development and applications.
That's really helpful. Thank you for sharing that. These are really important technical skills and languages that are in greater need, greater and greater need. So if you guys, are able to learn this, I really think that will open up a lot of career opportunities for you. Python, that is a good question. What are your thoughts on Python?
Python, I think is a very good, when I mentioned about C and C++, it's more like if you really want to go hardcore into coding. But if for general software engineering or tests, Python is also a very good language because it's widely applicable. And most of the company I've seen use Python, whether in automation language or in the actual software development itself. And I've seen a lot of high school classes or even robotics teams are using Python to program the robots or the firmwares. So it's also a very good language to use. I mean, you can also compare it to, spoken language. If you have learned English, sometimes it will be helpful to learn Spanish or some other languages that use the alphabets system, right? So I would say like all of these computer languages are related to each other because they often accomplish the same thing in different ways. So whatever language that you see it's easier to approach, go ahead and start with that first. But if you want to understand like the actual computer science, how to the inside outs of the computer system, I think C and C++ is a must language to learn.
Thank you for the analogies. I find that particularly helpful, especially when a lot of this is technical jargon. So thank you for that explanation. Any last questions from anybody or last words of advice or encouragement, John?
Yeah, I'm actually just really encouraged to see so many participants joining. And I felt that it's you all are really blessed because you understand the importance of career exploration at such a young age. And then you have been provided such an amazing resource with different speakers and different trainings to equip you and guide you. The advice I have for you is what I've learned. So whatever knowledge or things that you have been equipped with, be the salt and light wherever you go, because we are all being blessed by God with the talents and resources. And whatever we do, whatever we say, whatever accomplishment we made, it's all for giving glory to God. And Father God would actually take a large delight in us, because we are all wonderfully and fearfully made.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And John, I was personally encouraged by your story and what you shared about how God's uniquely gifted us. I find it amazing that you have so many interests, not just in the technical side, but also in music, and a lot of very practical skills that you have, like with, YouTube and editing, and your heart for the youth, and just seeing God's story weaved throughout your life. I echo what you said to the youth here today. It's really quite amazing, the opportunity you'll have. It's something that I wish I had when I was younger. The leaders of this ministry, I know they care so much about each of you all. And it's inspiring that they're able to find speakers from all over the world or country, and you guys are from all over the world and country, to come together and share. It's really quite unique. And so anyway, I encourage y'all to stay connected, and if there's anything that John or I or Elaine, Uncle Me, Pastor Lee, any of us can help y'all with, we're happy to. So thank you so much, everybody, for your time. John, I don't know if you have any last words, but if not, I'll probably end the recording here.
No, yeah, thank you for inviting me. Actually, by preparing these slides, I've learned a lot myself, reflecting on what I've worked with. So actually teaching is, or sharing is a very good approach to learning about yourself.
I agree with that. I encourage all of y'all one day to prepare some kind of slides equivalent to this, but that reflects your life journey, and you're going to learn a lot and encourage a lot of people in the future. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon next time. Take care, everyone.